Right, that's it. We're live, Andy.
Hello, Nick. Happy New Year.
You make that sound like you haven't spoken to me since, but we actually had a chat the other day. But Happy New Year anyway. And also to Happy New Year to anybody who's watching. What does 2025 hold for us all?
God knows.
That's the question. What about you, Andy? What does 2025 hold for you?
Oh, I don't know. I'm off on holiday soon, so.
So, Andy, piggybacking that question, yeah, have you got any life goals for 2025?
Life goals for 2025? No, not life goals. I have something we'll talk about. I have things I will be doing this year, but my planning horizon doesn't really go out longer than 18 months.
Yeah, well, I haven't got any life goals, but we'll come on to that in the meat of the video. Yeah. So before we get into that, I just wanted to sort of explain the context of this particular live session. Whilst I was on holiday with my 3 weeks in Portugal, yay! Can you tell? Do I look tanned?
No.
Oh, thanks, Andy. Yeah. Well, you definitely don't, mate. You look pasty with and pink.
Yep, good.
But so when I was in Portugal, I did put out a video about how I'd ditched goals and I talked about a little bit about the things that I did instead, just sort of covered over them. And that video really did extremely well. I guess viral in the real sense of the word. I mean, my videos these days get about 8, 9, 10,000 views. That particular one got 300,000, and it's still climbing. So I thought it was something that might be worth you and I talking about, because I know before the live we were talking about how we've actually got a different approach to goals and objectives and the things we want to do. So I thought that would form the basis of what we could perhaps have a chat about today, and to help anybody who's watching who might be a little bit stuck when it comes to what you do after 60 and the sort of things you do. So I've put it on screen there. Are life goals a complete waste of time after 60? So, Andy, are they a complete waste of time after 60?
Not a complete waste of time, but you shouldn't plan your life on doing something a long time ahead. I think it's two different parts of it. But I think long-term goals are a waste of time after 60. I think long-term goals are a waste of time anyway, but that's a different story. But
what's a long-term goal, Andy? What are we talking about? What kind of timescale?
Anything more than about 2 years.
Right. Okay. So anything beyond 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you saying then that life goals are fine as long as they're up to 2 years, but beyond that, waste of time?
Yeah. I think they'd stop being life goals if it's 2 years.
Yeah.
And it comes back to the thing you talked about in the video. It's about the experiences that we both had recently around people not being here for that long, and people disappearing of our age and not managing to enjoy their things. So I plan for something in 10 years' time when you may not be here.
Andy, that's a good point, actually, because I think you were telling me earlier that you've had a recent experience.
Yeah.
In that sense, tell us more. What is it that's happened for you to say that?
Well, I've always thought it anyway, but as you know, I run a local group which is for retired men. We meet once a month. We've been doing
Men's Oasis.
Men's Oasis, yeah.
So for any of the viewers who are down in the Thames Valley, it's called Men's Oasis, and it meets up in Wokingham.
It meets up in Wokingham, 4th Friday of every month at 10 o'clock at the library.
So contact Andy if you want to join it. But yeah, back to your story.
Just turn up if you want to turn up. That's fine.
Yeah.
So one of the guys who joined it early on, he retired when he was 59, and he's just turned 65. Came on for Christmas dinner at beginning of December that we have. So we all sort of meet up and say hello instead of having the meeting in the library. And he was complaining of a stomachache. And my wife noticed. So my wife's an acupuncturist as well. She's been treating him and his wife for about 14, 15 years. So since she started as an acupuncturist. So, I've known this guy for 2 years. Really, really nice guy. and he's sort of been looking after elderly parents. Their only son's only just left home and moved up to Newcastle. They had a time when they were ready to do the things they wanted to do, and he had 10-year plans in place for what he wanted to do. Well, cut a long story short, my wife saw him for treatment on the 23rd of the 20th of December, and he was complaining of a stomachache. And she said, "You really should go and see a doctor."
Mm-hmm.
And he got some blood tests. They told him to go into hospital just after Christmas. He went into hospital just after Christmas. Was there for a day or 2 days, and after a day everything just shut down, and he died on New Year's Day before he even had a diagnosis.
Oh wow!
And
Wow,
he
that's
had
a shocker.
Yeah, and he had cancer of the what did he have cancer of? The liver and the pancreas.
Blimey.
He didn't even know.
He didn't even know.
He didn't know. All he had was problems with his stomach. He was having issues eating.
Right. What for how long were we talking about?
Well, we spoke to his wife. It's only about 5 or 6 weeks.
So for 5 or 6 weeks, he was having difficulty eating with his stomach and things like that.
Yeah.
And fast forward, a few weeks, and he's dead.
He's dead, and
yeah,
there was nothing they could do about it. It was advanced. So all those plans he had, all those 10-year plans, where he was going to be, what he was going to do, the detail in there, all the things they were going to do, he hasn't done.
Yeah.
And it brings, and looking at your video, it just brings home the reality of, if I say I'm going to do something in 10 years, well, why am I waiting 10 years to do it? If it's something I really want to do,
yeah,
I want to do it now. I don't want to wait 10 years. It's important. It's really important to do all the things that you can do when you're fit and healthy, when you're able of doing it before the inevitable happens. We're all going to die at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and I can see from the comments, Andy, there's one or two viewers that are chipping in with some comments on this. If I could just pop these up on for you to have a look at as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So Pause, Claws and Jaws says that her husband retired earlier than he was due and enjoyed a couple of years and then became very ill. So sadly, he hasn't had a good retirement.
Yeah.
Which kind of backs up what you say, really.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, Pause. Yes. Whatever your name is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does bring it up, and I think the other comment that we've had from Tronaldino. Let me put that one up. You can have another 10, 15 or 20 years, but you don't know what you don't know. None of us know how long we're going to be here. And I think it's really important to do all the things you can do when you can do it. And those things don't necessarily require good health. It may be that you do have different things you want to go. Going to the theatre, going to there are things you can do when you don't have really good health. My father had cancer of the bladder, and it is treatable. So that is one of the things. So I hope that all goes okay, as okay as it can do. But yeah, it is. It's the things that we were talking about, because you had a similar instance. It wasn't someone that you knew, Nick, but you had a similar thing just over a year ago, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I talked about it in the video, and so I won't go over too much detail. But the place that we stay in Portugal, we go to every year. It's a timeshare, so we go there every year for 2 weeks. And obviously, there are two villas next door to each other, identical, that are owned by this timeshare company. And the guy next door rocks up every year for the Christmas week. Actually, he's there for the New Year week, and he's been coming there for years. Anyway, this time last year, on the final day of the holiday, the timeshare, he died in the grounds next to the pool, and I witnessed the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I guess he must have been about my age, I think so. And yeah, that I won't lie, that did make a big difference to me when it came to my kind of views on what I was going to do for the coming year. But that isn't the reason why I ditched life goals. I'd already ditched complex life goals quite a few years earlier, which I'll happy to come on to as we talk. But yeah, I mean, when you see somebody of a similar age to yourself pass away of an illness of some kind, I think that's the shake-up. I mean, the phrase I often use in my videos when I've described these sort of things is that it gives you a kick up the arse. And if it doesn't give you a kick up the arse or a kick up the ass, dependent for
don't go down that route again.
I'm going down it, mate. Arse for our UK viewers and ass for our American viewers. So if you, another phrase is the jacksie, isn't it? A kick up the jacksie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it doesn't give you a kick up the jacksie, then and you're that age of somebody who passes away, then get a grip. Time is passing, and you are unlikely to physically improve. It's not like when you're 15 you start pumping iron and you turn yourself into a muscle man. This ain't going to happen. You're in your 60s. You are slowly declining, and you have to wake up to that fact. And I think your 60s is a good time to wake up to it. Because as I've often said in my videos, my good mate the surgeon says that the wheels fall off in your 70s. But yeah, we've got a few more comments, Andy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Kevin. I mean, this is one of the things that is dear to Nick and my heart about finding out what your purpose is.
Oh, he lost his wife last year as well.
Yeah,
sorry to hear that, Kevin.
Sorry, that's sorry to hear that. But it is when you retire, a lot of it is around what your purpose is, why are you there, what things you really enjoy doing, what is it you want, what is it that makes you feel good about yourself. Because whilst you're in work, you've got a whole load of things that you actually do.
Yeah, we've talked at length about this one because there is actually a previous live which you can actually go back and watch on YouTube. I can't remember when it was. Was it 3 or 4 back? It's on there, and we actually discovered that was all about purpose. The whole live was about purpose.
That was the first one we ever did, Nick.
Was it the first one we ever did? Wow, crikey. That seems so long ago now. What was it, about 6 weeks? 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. But yeah, so Kevin, that one, worth a look when Andy and I talked a lot about that topic, because it is so we won't cover it in any great detail today. But you are right, finding purpose is a biggie. Yeah. Right, back onto the goals and life goals. So Tronaldino says there is also a difference between goals, like a bucket list, versus principles to keep striving for. Enjoy every day on earth, be kind to your loved ones, and stay active.
Yes, and I'd agree with that. You can have a bucket list. That's not goals. They're just things you'd like to do. I think goals are. I have a number of goals of targets that I want to get to, but that does include going and doing some of the things on my bucket list, but not all of them.
Yeah, that's right. I'm with you on that. I mean, I've never really seen bucket lists as kind of goals, if I'm honest. I've always kind of been not for quite some time, but I've always been a goal setting machine, to be honest. Right up until I was, I don't know, guess I'd be in my mid-50s, a goal-setting machine. And goals were always achievement-orientated and were always things that you could measure. Not necessarily measure in monetary terms, but they were things you would measure. So, for example, an obvious one for a lot of people, particularly in the new year, is that they've eaten and drunk far too much, put a bit of weight on. They rock up into the new year a little bit overweight, Andy. Yeah. So they say, "Oh, my goal is to I don't know, lose 2 stone, lose 3 stone, whatever it is, before I go on holiday in June." That kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Now that's not a life goal. That's a goal. Yeah.
Yes.
And I used to have a lot of those kind of goals. my life revolved around goals like that. You know, the 5x5 system, like five goals for the year and 5 goals for the month that linked to. And the list went on. Anyway, not many of them got achieved, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. So those are goals, but they're different. Life goals is a whole different. To me, is a different thing. A life goal is something along the lines of a life goal is it could be involved around your bucket list, I guess. Travel on reflection. My life goal has always been to go to the Great Wall of China. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For example, it isn't one of my life goals, by the way, but it could be somebody's life goal. Well, my view on that is get yourself to the Great Wall of China now.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
So-
a life goal might be linked to a career or job. I mean, what do you think life goals are as compared to just goals?
I don't know, because I've never really had life goals, to be perfectly honest. I've always I've lived my life a lot around doing what I want to do.
Uh-huh.
I've been very fortunate, even when I was working.
Right.
If it felt wrong, I didn't do it. Although it's a bit harder if someone's paying you and telling you what to do. But so
you've never really had life goals then?
No. So I had when I started work, I had one goal. My one goal was to have enough what I used to call F off money. So it's
Right.
enough money by the time I was 50 where I could just do what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So
And have you achieved that goal or that objective?
So I stopped working when I was 48 and had enough money. Yes.
Yeah. So that was your objective. Well, I guess I'm different to you in that sense, Andy, because for me, it was all about goals, including life goals.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, setting up businesses, setting up a business, where that business was going to go, all linked to my kind of life goals. And as part of that process, I was very big on vision boards. The thing that got me into that, in fact, the book is still here on my thing here, The Success Principles by Jack Canfield.
Yeah.
I got that book years ago. I don't read it anymore because it's full of why you should set life goals. But I used to have vision boards with all the things on that I was going to see, do, and achieve.
Oh,
yeah?
really?
Yeah. And I think it's linked to a thing they called the law of attraction. I got into that as well quite a while. That one appealed to me as well, the law of attraction. But the reality is most of the things on the vision board, even though I kind of looked at them every day for years, most of them didn't come to pass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when my mum passed away in 2017, and I said this in the video, and in 2018, the beginning of 2018, I was in no mood to set any goals or anything. I was, mourning the death of my mother and the fact that I was now an orphan. My dad having passed away 20 years earlier. Because when both of your parents are gone, I think you kind of your own mortality really, comes to pass. You really think about your own mortality. So I set. I didn't bother setting goals. I decided that was that for. I just kind of like I drifted for a while, if in all honesty, yeah. And I moved to a completely different system that I'd picked up off a guy called Tim Ferriss, who I think a lot of people will know, which was doing a past year review, and then setting up what I call anti goals.
So how does that work then? How do anti goals work then, Nick?
Well, the anti goals and the past year review sit together. The way the past year review works for me is that I do record a lot of things. I record pretty much everything that goes on in my life in my Google Calendar. I make a note at the end of every day what I've done. It goes into my Google Calendar. I color code it. Purple for things I enjoy, red for things I've hated. And then I look back over the year to see the sort of stuff that I didn't enjoy. And then I set out to do none of those things if I can help it, or certainly less if they're things that are a bit more of an obligation.
Right.
Yeah. So I look through all those things over the past year. That's the past year review, and then I make a note of the things that I don't want to do, and the actions and the things that I'm going to do instead, that I'm going to replace them with.
Yeah.
And I only look forward 12 months. So I don't have any objectives, goals, things I want to do beyond 12 months.
So have you got any examples of those, Nick?
Well, I have. I've got to be a bit careful of them because some of them are Some of them are family orientated, so I'm not going to, just in case any family are watching. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll tell you one of the things. You and I got involved in an organisation a few years back, okay,
Yep.
which
Yep.
we're always bringing up, aren't we? And it became pretty obvious when I got into it with you, and you and I felt the same, that that organisation expected us to cold call.
Yep.
Yeah. And I hadn't done that for years, and I had no intention. So one of the things I had as a thing here is that I don't like cold selling, for example. So therefore, I won't do any cold calling or cold emailing or anything like that. Yeah, and so therefore, but I will create a platform for sharing my experience and my knowledge that doesn't involve cold selling. And
Yeah.
off the back of that, my YouTube channel was born.
Yes.
So that's an example of an anti-goal. 3 things: I don't like something, so therefore I won't do this, and I am going to do this. So for me, I don't like cold selling. I won't do it. I'm not going to do it, but I am going to do this instead. Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yes. I mean,
that's an example of an anti-goal. Sorry, I was going
I
to
was
tell
going
you
to
about
say,
another one.
no, you and I are very different because
We certainly are.
I don't review my year. That's not something that I readily do.
Yeah, what do you do? What do you do then, Andy? What's your kind of alternative to that?
Well, I do have anti goals, but I come at them in a different way. If I feel I don't like doing something, I don't do it. I just stop doing it, and I will look for other things to fill that space.
Yeah,
but not quite in a structured a way. It will be based around your the things I like, what my purpose is, the way I walk, or the way that I am.
yeah. And funny you should say that, because I popped this comment up on here. Look, I am life goals after 60 question mark. I don't understand that question, so maybe you could elaborate. I am. Maybe you could elaborate on that with another comment. What do you mean by life goals after 60 question mark?
Yeah.
Unless, do you understand that comment, Andy?
No, I
No.
mean,
Maybe you could elaborate, please. I am. Yeah, but one of the things I do with this past year review is that I try to avoid doing things that I don't enjoy, and do something else instead.
yep,
Even things like traveling, for example. I'm not a massive fan of traveling at peak times, on trains and things like that at peak time. So
yeah,
I'll always try and plan my travel when I go to visit my son in London. I always try and get a train that's a little bit later than peak. First of all, it's a little bit cheaper, but that's not a reason. But they don't tend to be as full. And also, there's this thing in the UK called Seatfrog, where you can upgrade to a first class ticket for £10.
yeah,
So I always avail myself of that as well.
yeah,
So the way that would work with an anti-goal is that I don't like traveling on trains in peak time, and I don't like traveling second class in peak time. So
yeah,
therefore, I won't travel peak time, and I'll try and get myself a cheap first class ticket.
yeah.
As an example. So everything about what I do throughout my life is kind of structured around trying to ditch things that I don't like doing.
Yes.
And I think you're the same in that sense, but you just don't do it in a structured way, do you? It's more kind of. It strikes me that you do it more day by day.
Yeah. So I would say that yours is more logical, mine's more emotional.
Yeah, I think so. All right, I'll just pop this. I am has popped it up on here. Life goals after 60. Wisdom, purpose, positive contribution to others, in contrast to regret, bitterness, and despair. Not a time to be a hedonist. Finish well. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's not a time for regrets, bitterness, or despair. And just on that point, I am straight. I agree with you on that, because regret, bitterness, and despair looks back at negativity a bit too much. So even though I do a past year review, I'm not really looking back in despair at it. I'm just trying to eliminate things I didn't enjoy doing. But I'm not looking back at things that I really regret.
Yeah.
I just don't see the point of that.
No.
It's done, it's gone. Learn from it and don't do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, in business, for example, I've hired some awful people. But that's never going to happen to you. And I obviously regretted it at the time. And I've gone into business with people in the last 10, 15 years, partnering with people that didn't work out well, but I'm not bothered. Draw a line in the sand and move on.
Yeah.
What about you? What about your thoughts on that, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with the wisdom, purpose, and positive contribution to others, which I think is what we're trying to do. Well, it is what we're trying to do.
100%. I mean, that was my motivation for starting the channel.
Yeah, it's. I think there are too many people who look back and regret stuff, and as you said, you can't do anything about it. So I agree, Nick. It is a time to I think the finish well is a nice point there. So finish your life well. Do the things you really want to do, and this comes back to the anti-goals you were talking about. It's getting all the crap out of your life that you actually don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah,
it's meeting the people, it's doing the things. I mean, I volunteer. I'm a trustee on a local charity. They wanted me to do stuff that I don't want to do, so I actually said, I don't want to do that. This is what I'm willing to do. I spoke to the chairman about it, and he said, "No, that's fine. We value that, and thanks for telling me, because I won't give you things that you just won't do, or you won't enjoy doing." So I think a lot of it, and it's surprising how, if you take control of things, or control of what you don't like and don't do it, it's surprising how many people accept that. Don't try and start forcing you to do other things. And it's one of the other things we've talked about, Nick, in the past, which is don't try and satisfy other people's needs. This is about, finishing well is about satisfying your own needs, which includes your family and friends and all those sort of things.
Yeah, the mistake I think some people make, particularly men, is that they think they're satisfying their needs by staying on the grindstone work. Okay. And one of the things I talk about in my videos a lot is this book by Bronnie Ware, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. She's a palliative care nurse who cared for people at the end of life.
Yeah.
And men in particular regret having worked so hard. Yeah. In other words, they spent too much time at work, at the coalface, and one of the reasons they gave for doing that was obviously providing for the family and all that kind of stuff. But when you get to the end of life, and I guess hopefully that'll be a long way off. To use this phrase from I Am, you don't want to have any regret, bitterness, and despair. Like he says or she says, you want to finish well.
Yeah.
But don't you also? It's not just finishing well, though, is it? It's also about running the final part of the race as well, and enjoying it.
Yes.
Enjoying the final part. I mean, I don't see life as a race. I see it as a book with chapters. But if it was a race, then let's say it's a marathon. Yeah. It's not about winning the race, is it? It's about enjoying the run. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So, I don't want to go through that analogy too much. If you collapse at 20 miles, if you've enjoyed it, then that's fine. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but use that analogy, Andy, because that's a good analogy. Because let's face it, if life is a marathon, okay, and it's 26 miles, yeah, and some people just go at it, don't they? From the off,
yeah.
And as you quite rightly say, they then drop dead at the 20-mile marker.
Yep.
Yeah. And usually they're trying to win the race.
Yeah.
Whatever winning the race means. Winning the race is different to everybody. I mean, if you'd have chatted to me in my 30s, for example, about winning the race, oh God, it was all about achievement. It was all about, cars. It was all about, fancy, shiny possessions. I guess there was a bit of kind of, power in there, you name it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, or unfortunately, because my father passed away when I was in my 40s, and that's what gave me my kick up the jacksie. I ditched all of that, and I wasn't interested in any of that kind of stuff. But I would say I was running fast for the first part of the marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I stopped and thought, oh, I'm not bothered about winning the race. I'm bothered about enjoying the race. And I slowed down and jogged my way ever since. Now I'm walking. I'm not even jogging now. I'm walking to the finish.
Yeah. And I mean, using that analogy, you see, I think if I'd have actually, so, I stopped working in my 40s, and didn't, not out of choice. I reckon if I hadn't, and I enjoyed what I did, but I was doing it at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I think I would have, no, I'm almost certain I would not be alive now if I'd have carried on doing that.
So you started the race, you were going fast, but you were enjoying sprinting. You
Yeah,
were enjoying going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was as well. I won't lie. I was enjoying a lot of it for a while. But in the middle of the race, I stopped enjoying it.
Yeah.
So Soaring Road Trip says, try learning hang gliding. Yes. Yeah, well, yeah, I can just see you on a hang glider, Andy. It will change your life. Learned at 41, semi-retired at 47, and began seeing country to flying sites. Better than thinking you're getting financially secure chained to a desk. Yeah, absolutely. Chained to a desk. Yeah, Lovely. Oh, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that story. Yeah, absolutely. Each to their own.
I think if I did that, it would end my life.
Andy, I don't think there's a hang glider built.
Of course there is. Of course there is. Two people go off on hang gliders, so that's okay.
Exactly. That's what I mean. There isn't a hang glider built that can take you.
Yes, there is. Two people go on hang gliders.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not more than two people, you cheeky bagger.
But hang gliding, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I've always been a bit averse to anything where I might hurt myself, so I won't be taking up hang gliding. So there you go. I did actually take my motorbike license when I was 47. I'd never ridden a motorbike in 30 years. I got off a bike at 17, off my Suzuki GT 125 with the L plate on. Got myself a little Mini and never went near a motorbike again. Anyway, after I retired, I decided one of the things I wanted to do was to learn to ride a motorbike again and get my license. And I did. I went on a 1-week intensive in Wales with BMW, got my full license to drive anything. Yeah. Got home, never been on the motorbike since. Yeah. The reason being, in that week when I was learning to drive a bike again, and when I ultimately passed my test, the number of near misses, the number of times either myself or the group of people with nearly got wiped out, just put me off. And I just thought, if I'm going to have a near miss, I think I'd rather be encased in metal. But I still have a little bit of a yearning to get a motorbike. I still have that itch, and I'm not sure if I'm going to scratch it or not.
You should do it, Nick. Go on one of those biking holidays somewhere.
Anyway, thanks to Soaring Road Trip for sharing that. Yeah, you should try hang gliding, but no, I don't think we will. Yeah. So right. So look,
but I think to that point from him, the point's well made that try doing things. If you think you like it, have a go. You went and rode a bike because you thought you'd like it. You had a go.
Yep.
Rather than if you hadn't, you'd be sitting here now going, "Oh, I wish I'd done that." Or
well, it might still be a life goal that I had set there as one of my life goals, which
Yeah. But I think if you're trying to do stuff, if you think you might like to do something, then try it. You see people who do their first parachute jump when they're in their 90s, and that's fine. If that's what you really want to do, and you decide that's what you want to do, that's great. But it's understanding. It's getting to understand your purpose and what you're about, which actually drive the things that you enjoy doing, and help you be a bit more selfish about finishing well on your terms.
You like that comment, didn't you?
I did like that. I like that comment of finishing well. I think that's however you do it. My dad died just over a year ago, and he was happy and peaceful when he died because he'd done everything he wanted to do.
Yeah.
and he was, the last few years of his life weren't brilliant, but actually he still enjoyed himself. He still did stuff. He still, but within his own, capability.
Mm.
They were still going on holiday 6 months before they died. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, it was it's a difficult thing when you lose your parents. Definitely,
yeah.
there's no doubt about it. So Andy, life goals. Back on topic. Okay, are there any life goals that you think people should have, or are you very much in the camp that you do think they're a waste of time?
I think it depends on the individual, Nick, which is a bit of a cop out. For me, they're not for me. They never have been.
Yeah.
So I tend to do things based on what I want to do. So I have short-term projects, which I do, around travel or around doing certain things. But it's really what I feel like doing. It's not because I think someone else, or because I think I should do it. It's because I want to do it.
Yeah.
And if I don't enjoy it, well, I only do it once. I don't do it a second time.
Absolutely.
So they're not so many goals. I think I achieved all the goals I set out to achieve. I think I surpassed the goals that I set myself in life, or when I was young and naive. You think things might happen, but you don't really know.
Yeah.
And I don't regret anything. I don't regret anything. It's all part of the experience. So no goals. Yeah, life goals. I don't have them. I have projects. I have a whole load of projects that I'd like to do, and I prioritize them, and I make sure I do them when I can.
Yeah. No, I'm in agreement, Andy. I'm with you on that one. I think we share the same view. We tackle it differently, but we share the same view. I'm not a one for life goals. I think there are too many people out there that kind of set these goals that are hard to achieve and are never going to happen and all this kind of stuff. And remember, the whole context of the live is that this is all about you've hit 60. Yeah. What should you be doing? If life goals are a waste of time, what's the alternative? And I think you and I both share the same view on this, that it's all about finding things to do in a 12-month period that you enjoy or you might enjoy. And that means either that means trying new things that you've not done before, potentially. And two, with my past year reviews, remember, very much focusing on the things that you've enjoyed doing in the last 12 months and do more of them. And particularly when it comes to bucket lists, right? If it's a bucket list item, the way I would deal with a bucket list item is that obviously you're not going to do everything on your bucket list in the next 12 months. I mean, I've got a list of places that I'd be interested in visiting. If I never visit them, ultimately I'm not bothered, but I would like to visit them. And what I do is I check that list and I start looking at things and putting them in my calendar. I start putting them in my calendar, blocking them off, and then making the arrangements to go and do that thing. Now, in my case, it's been a little bit held back because, as I've said on the videos, I've got this gallbladder coming out in February. So I've stayed a little bit clear of some of my travel bucket items because I wanted to be close to an emergency hospital in Britain. I didn't want to be stuck in Mexico or on top of Machu Picchu and then suddenly get sat in front of the Taj Mahal having eaten too much Indian food and suddenly get a gallbladder attack. I didn't want to do that. So I put all those things on hold until it's sorted. But this year, I've already started scheduling in and making arrangements for some of the things that are on my bucket list. For example, one of the things that's on my bucket list is to do the North Coast 500. Up in Scotland, the driving route. And in order to do the North Coast 500, I feel as though I'll need a better car than I haven't actually got a car at the moment, but my wife's got an old banger. But I don't want to do the North Coast 500 in her old banger. So I've made a note that I'm going to need a car of a particular type, and I've already started making plans to do that. Blocked it off when I'm going to do it, and all this kind of stuff on the assumption that I'm going to be healthy.
Yep.
Yeah. That's how I approach bucket list items. Take it off your bucket list, get it into your calendar in a date in the future, and then start doing the things, the tasks that will make the bucket list item come to pass. So if you've always want to go and see the Taj Mahal, then, get yourself online, look into flights, hotels, trips, how you can do it, rather than just leaving it as something that it'll come to pass. Otherwise, it'll just stay on your bucket list forever.
Yeah. So I mean, so this year we're off to New Zealand for 6 weeks in the beginning of March, and then we're going away at Christmas. We're either going to go to Mauritius or Thailand. We haven't decided which one. For a couple of weeks, and we want to go to Japan probably next year. And there's a whole load of things we want to do, and they are, as you said, they're not quite in the diary yet. Although I have to plan quite differently because my wife still works.
Yeah.
But they do go in the diary, and then I make it happen, which is brilliant. And when I can't do it anymore, we'll stop. But I mean,
have you been to New Zealand before?
No.
You're going to love it. Yeah, I've been. Yeah. Has that been so? Again, in the context of this live view, is that something that's been on your bucket list for a while, or tell us how you came about deciding to go to New Zealand for 6 weeks?
Well, it's just the stories you hear that other people have gone there about how fantastic it is. We started traveling a lot for 2017, 2018, 2019 until the dreaded COVID.
Yeah.
And we were doing longer and longer holidays. So part of it was my wife actually getting comfortable with the fact she could leave her business for 6 weeks and it wasn't going to damage it. So so that all works now. But it's so. And I want to do it with her. It's something I want to share an experience with my wife. So that's very important. It has been on my bucket list for a long time. We were going to do all this 2001. That's when it was originally.
2001, did you say?
Sorry, 2021.
Oh, 2021. Right.
I missed one of the twos out.
I was going to say, God, 24 years. It's been in the.
No. So it's only been there it's been there 4 or 5 years. So we did Australia. We did 4 weeks in Australia in 2019, 2020, over the Christmas that period, that year. And it was fantastic. We do absolutely. It was just. It was idyllic. We did four cities. Really enjoyed it, and the other plan was to do more. But we did South Africa a couple of years ago, and we're not trying to do everything, so we're doing it at our pace. So if we'd gone back 20 years ago and tried to do this, we'd have done a lot more. We'd have fitted in a lot more than we're doing now. But it's just a leisurely. But it's leisurely for us compared to where we were 20 years ago.
So what's the process then? Talk us through it. So you've always wanted to travel. You've been traveling a lot. Why New Zealand this year?
What we're trying to do is we're trying to do all the really long haul flights, all the long distance ones before we get too old.
Right. This is what I was trying to get to. So you basically before you get too old.
Yes. So I look at my parents. So my dad died at 90. My mum's still alive. She's 88 now.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of things planned for their retirement, which they never did. They wanted to go to South Africa. They wanted to go to New Zealand. They wanted to go to a whole load of places. And every time they planned it, something came up from a health point of view.
I see.
That was when they were in their 70s.
Right. Okay.
I just looked at it and I went, do you know what? I want to do these things. So the reason they wanted to do this is because my dad had been to a lot of these places and he wants to take my mum there, which is fine. But for us, it's things we both want to do. There are things that Tina doesn't want to do, so I'd love to go to Antarctica, and I will go at some point.
Yeah.
But I won't go with her because she doesn't want to do it, which is fine.
You go on your own.
I will. I'll go on my own.
Solo.
You might come with me, Nick.
Yeah, I might do. I might do. You never know. It's always possible. Depends if it's a luxury cruise ship.
They're all luxury. My son did it last year.
Yeah, if it's a luxury cruise ship, yeah, and I can go inside and it's nice and warm. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, talking just a side story, Nick. You know, one of my sons and his wife, they've sort of given up employed work and they work for themselves now, doing this sort of travel. They're traveling the world and they're getting paid for doing it, which is fantastic. But one of the places they went to a couple of years ago they were telling us over Christmas, was the Komodo Islands, where you've got the Komodo dragons.
Right.
And they're trying to do things on a budget. And they went on this cruise ship, which was meant to have 30 people on it, and they said it had 70 on it, and they were on mats, and they were on it for 4 days. And it was just horrible. They were just explained to me. I was thinking, why would anybody ever want to do something like that? It's just not.
Yeah, madness, isn't it?
It's just awful. So they wanted to go and see them, and they said the experience of getting there and seeing the dragons and all that sort of thing was fantastic. But I'm not sure I could go through all that pain to get there.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Andy, getting back onto the topic of life goals.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing from you is that for you, it's about you're very conscious that you might not want to do these things, because just remind me, how old are you again? 61, 62?
62.
Right. You're 62 now.
63 now. God,
you're 63 now. And you're of the opinion that you might not be able to do these things when you're 73, 83. So it's almost like having a tier of things, isn't it? Things that you can do, that you can do now that you're unlikely to do when you're 83.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you necessarily will reach the point when you're 83 that you won't do them.
Yep.
But the reality is, you're thinking to yourself, well, I've got the time, I've got the money, so therefore now is the time to do it.
And I've got the health.
And you've got the health. You've got the time, you've got the money, you've got the health. Now's the time to do it. Whereas when you're 73 or you're 83, you'll have time and money, but your health might not be up to it.
Yeah. So
you don't want. What you're saying to people is, why risk that if you can do it now?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, does that not? So that's bucket list items, travel. That's all very well, but what about the people who they're 60 and they're working? They make a decision to stay at work, and I'm not talking about the people who have to stay at work.
Yeah.
Okay, because I get that. I'm 100% sympathetic with that. That there are a lot of people out there who are in the 60s that are having to work because they're to feed themselves, their family. They just cannot retire. They are not financially able to retire. I get that. Yeah. So this is not aimed at them. Okay. The question I'm asking is about the people who they have got the money. Okay. They could retire. Yeah. But they're electing to stay at work, often in a full-time job, as their choice.
Yes.
Yeah. And some of them, from what I can see in the comments, still have a lot of career-orientated goals.
Yes.
That probably I had when I was in my 30s, but I do hear people in the comments having these goals in their 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about them? What would you say to them?
If you're enjoying it, it's what you really want to do. It's that thing of are you doing something you like and you want to do? And if you are, fine, keep doing it. One of my neighbours is
as long as they're not as long as they're not making sacrifices in other important areas. There is what I would probably say to add to that.
Yeah, or I mean, there's a number of things. So they're not making sacrifices. They're not. There's the issue that they may actually be sitting there scared. So it's sort of it's leaving something that's well known and comfortable and move into something that is unknown, which is a scary thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. A neighbour, a guy I know fairly well, he's coming up for 67. And he doesn't want to stop. He says he really enjoys what he's doing, which is fine. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. It's not for me, but I'm not him.
No, and it's not for me either. And I think it's not for a lot of people.
No.
Is the truth. Yeah, but you're right. One of the earlier comments was about finding purpose, wasn't it?
Yes.
Was it Kevin? A lot of people feel that. Well, I don't want to get onto that topic, but in any great depth. But it's work gives them purpose, and they kind of feel that without work, what purpose have you got? That's the gist. That's the gist of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's all the other things that we've talked about before about identity and who you are, the definition of yourself. There's all those things that go with work.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
The comfort blanket. There's the routine. There's the schedule. There's all that stuff that it's scary when it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I do get it. How about you with life goals, Nick?
Well, yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think they are a waste of time after 60, and that's why I kind of was happy with the topics. Why I produced the earlier video on the topic. I think if you've got life goals and you're 60, then I can't see that as being a good place to be. And if you've got them when you're 40, then I think it's time to make changes so that you can achieve them. You're not happy in your job, do something else. But my life now is all about experiences that I enjoy, and having experiences that I enjoy.
Yes.
And I'm not into big life goals and things like that anymore. I'm into having a 12-month set of objectives, things that I'd like to get done, that are all based around predominantly experiences.
Yeah.
So So Andy, I think we've beaten this topic to death, don't you?
I think we probably have.
Yeah. I've noticed that the viewers are dropping off, so they obviously I think we've beaten it to death as well. Before we go, if just wanted to ask anybody who is still watching whether or not you have any questions for Andy and I before we sign off. Now will be the time to chip in and ask them. So I'll put that up on there. So do you have any questions for Nick or Andy? If you do, please ask them now. If you are watching this video after the event and you have any questions for us, again, feel free to drop them in the comments. So whilst Andy and I just tie up, we'll give you time to fire any questions in. I know Andy's on a bit of a tight leash. You've got to be off, haven't you, Andy, at some point?
So my mum's coming over with one of my brothers. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, So, have you got any final thoughts on this topic, Andy?
Not any more than we've talked about. I think the final thoughts really, the summary from my point of view is if you want, as you've said it a number of times, but we both said it, is if you want to do something, do it. Why, don't put it off. Don't prevaricate. Don't just do it. Put it in the diary and go ahead and do it. If you don't like it, it's fine. But you don't want to be in 20 years' time going, I wish I'd done that, or I wish I tried this, or I wish I tried that. That's not a good place to be in. Yeah,
I think my final thought on life goals is that if you still have life goals after 60, I think it's time to turn them into specifics that are in your calendar, the things that you will actually do, tasks that will move the needle so that you end up achieving them, so you can get them sorted in the next 12 months. And I don't think life goals, travel is necessarily a life goal thing. I think it's more than that. So that's my kind of final thoughts on it. If you have life goals, now's the time to ditch them and make them actual experiences, real things that happen.
Yeah, we do have a question, Nick.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, no. Have we? Oh,
Yeah,
hang on. Yeah, we
yeah.
do.
I've just put it up. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Just
So,
checking in. I've just retired, but my wife doesn't want to retire. How to deal with retiring alone? Ooh, wow.
um, quite, quite. I was talking to Nick about this before. I'd so one of my sons, his wife's parents came over yesterday, and we had lunch, got on really well with them, had a long chat, and he retired a long time before his wife. So he was a barrister and a judge, and his wife, she was a partner in a law firm, and he. In his retirement, while she was still working, he just went off and did the things he wants to do. He loves rail travel, so he gets a travel pass around Europe, um, gets on the train, and off he goes. And he goes to lots and lots of different places, and he has a thirst for knowledge and a thirst for uncovering things. So he's very curious about a lot of stuff. Very, very
Yeah.
intellectual, but he's very curious. And that's what he does. And he loves it. He's still doing it. And he's in his 70s. He's still going off and doing that, even though his wife's retired now.
Well, I've got a couple of questions for Danny, just so I can give my answer. First of all, Danny, is your wife? I'm assuming you say your wife doesn't want her to retire, so therefore she's working. I wonder if you could just clarify that. Is she working? And the second question is, if she's working and you're working, are you working in different places in the sense that you don't see each other during the day? You just see each other after work when you get back together. I mean, that's how my life was historically. I worked somewhere, my wife worked somewhere, and we kind of saw each other in the evening. So is that your life? Please clarify in the comments. I'm going to make an assumption until you do that is the case. Okay, she's working. So she works in one place, you work in another place, and you see each other after work. Yeah. Nothing changes just because you retire and she doesn't, other than the fact that you can't do anything with her during the day because she's at work. Okay. So, yeah, there we go. Yes. Oh, hang on. Here we go. So Andy said, yeah, still working. I'm not working. Right. So you've retired, or you're not working. I think you have to replace the things that were work that took up your time with things that are for you, because you can't involve your wife in them. She's not going to retire. Yeah. So during that period where you're not retired, you have to do things for you. You have to find things to do, people to hang out with, whatever it is that you would normally, you spend those hours that you were at work doing that instead. Otherwise, life can become a bit purposeful, boring, waiting for your wife to come home. And, I've talked about this at length. I was sat in my dressing gown till the middle of the afternoon playing online poker when I first retired. But really, it's about finding things that you'll find that are fulfilling you, because she's not doing it with you. So you're going to have to learn to find things to do that you enjoy doing, either on your own or with other people. So that's my take on it. Andy, have you got anything else to add to what I've just said there?
No, but I think it's trying things out. So yeah, we've talked a number of times in some of the previous live casts that we've done around building new networks. Finding people, finding your new tribe, even if it's only a tribe of one, but people who've got similar views, similar passions, or whatever those passions are. But it's actually just reaching out and trying things.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. And this tribe of one, the tribe of one, is that one yourself?
No, that's one and one other, Nick.
Yeah,
I think one yourself is a bit
right. Because the other thing that I think you've got to get used to is your own company. You've got to find a way of enjoying your own company. Yeah. Now I know that's hard for the extroverts of the world who gain energy off people. I get that. But for the introverts of the world, it's going to be a damn sight easier, because, including me, we don't get energy off people; they drain us. But find a way of making time on your own a good thing, even if it involves going, traveling, seeing things, spending a lot of time in nature on your own, and just the the beauty of it and the mind. It grows your mind, helps your mind. You've got to get used to being alone, because when you retire, there's a good chance you will spend a lot of time alone, more so than when you're at work.
More so than when you're at work, but I would say that you don't have to. So if you're not that sort of person and you crave companionship, there are lots of places you can go to get that companionship with like-minded people.
That's true. That's true. As long as you don't fall into the trap of getting in with gangs of shallow people, and you get into that whole kind of nonsense where groups of people at work gather and they all behave like, I don't know what the word is. All behave. No, it's not so much cheap. They all behave like they all behave like a bunch of kids jostling for position in the school playground. Yeah. We experienced that with that organisation, Andy, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, where a bunch of 50 and 60-year-old men sort of behaving like children.
So Donny's said, so he's come up with so just my experience. So my wife still works. I play golf, and I play golf by myself. Well, I do play with other people, but I don't play with my wife. And she does things, even though she's still working, she still does things by herself. And I think when you first retire, there's a sort of guilt that you should try and do more with your wife, or try and spend all the time with your wife. But actually, they will do a lot of things. They will have their own hobbies. They will have their own things that they enjoy. So I think it's really important to have things that you enjoy for yourself, things that you enjoy doing together, and things that she enjoys doing for herself. If there are more hobbies that you like doing together, that's great.
I agree with that.
But I think it's important as well to have your separate life, because you've lived most of your life, as Nick said. You've gone out during the day and you spent time together in the evening, at the weekends. So you still need your time.
Yeah, 100%. I'll piggyback your point there, Andy, and I think you're 100% right. Okay, my wife and I, we've my wife hasn't worked for a long time, since she had our child, best part of 26 years ago. So she's been retired for a long time, really. And then I stopped working when I was in my 40s. We have zero hobbies together. None. Nothing. Nada. There's not a single hobby that we share. Okay. Her hobbies are different to mine. But we do make time to spend time together, more of a social type of thing. So, for example, we travel, we'll eat in certain types of restaurants. We like to go, visiting various places, but we don't have any hobbies that are mutual. And personally, I actually like that. I enjoy that. I don't want to play golf with my wife or go bike riding with my wife or any of that kind of stuff. I'm really, I love the time with my wife because we spend a lot of time together. But it's nearly always, is walking, I suppose walking, is that a hobby? I've just thought about it. Is it a hobby? I don't regard it as a hobby, you see. To me, it's just something you do all the time. But the only thing we do together is we would do a lot of walking. So we do walk a lot together. Yeah,
we do a lot of walking together.
Yeah, but I do a lot of walking on my own as well.
Yeah.
But the walking together is good. But other than the walking, we don't have any of the obvious hobbies, like sports and things like that.
No.
Yeah.
We're exactly the same.
Yeah, and even if we were to go to the gym, as an example, I go to the weight machines and hit the weight machines, and she'll go swimming, which is in a different part of the gym. So I think it's fine. I think you can't force your hobbies on somebody else, but the things that you do enjoy doing together, because if you're married, there must be things you enjoy doing, apart from the obvious. Then do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and I think that's probably what we'll wrap up on that one, shall we, Andy?
I think so, Nick. Yeah.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks for dropping that conversation, getting that conversation going. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Thank you.